So today we're going to be building our own beautiful assistant. Yeah. So you're going to work with me. We're going to do a practical follow along workshop where you can see how to build your own custom GPT, which is pretty cool. Within the hour, we have a full kind of process that we're going to go through, and it's going to include every single step you need to know to be able to create your custom GPT, your supporter within your kind of ChatGPT system. So we often use ChatGPT. You'll see that a lot of my kind of work comes through ChatGPT when we do these sessions, and that is because it is the most accessible. Yeah, it's the one that everybody has used. When it first came out, we were all so excited. We all signed up. And now we're kind of stuck in the entrenchment that it is the one that we know the most. But even though the way you create a custom agent, a custom GPT, or a custom repetitive task may be different on different platforms, such as Perplexity and kind of anything else, the templates that we're going to go through together today, you can use across any platform. Yeah. So the way that we're going to teach it, we're going to give it the boundaries, the constraints, the understanding of what we need it to do. You can use this on any AI platform. Yeah. So even though we're on ChatGPT and you may be like, oh, I actually don't use that anymore, Robin, that's totally okay. You can still use the template, the way that we teach this system to do what we need it to do across any platform. Yeah. Of course, Rohan, the session is recorded and it goes up onto our YouTube. Yeah. So make sure that you do check out there because there's loads of sessions from before as well. So most professionals, me included, sometimes we just use ChatGPT as a very quick helper. We ask a very quick question and we get an answer and we kind of move on. Yeah, we've got very used to this kind of very quick exchange when it comes to ChatGPT. But during each of those interactions, yeah, each of those kind of quick questions, we have to explain what we want it to do. We have to explain the context. We have to explain what good looks like in our response. And we have to do things like correct the tone, the depth, or the assumption. So we're actually making a lot of work for ourselves when we're using ChatGPT in this kind of back and forth that we've become very accustomed to. And this repetition is where we're actually not using AI in the most clever way. We're actually making work for ourselves when we do that, right? We are continually having to explain ourselves, continually having to give more and more information to this system and every single chat. Yeah. But custom GPTs unlock something very different. Yeah. Instead of reacting, instead of having to provide information all the time in every single back and forth, we design this assistant that all of a sudden starts to understand how we work, the standards that we expect, the types of tasks we expect it to repeat, and when do we want it to act, or when do we want it to pause? And it just kind of begins to understand us over time. So by the end of this session, you won't just understand what a custom GPT is. You'll be able to leave with a working assistant that fixes a problem for you. Yeah. And it also then fits into your everyday workflow. Now, you may then have to go back after this hour and update it, give it more information, configure it a little more, but you will have the bones of your new assistant. Okay. So this is a build along. I want you to open up ChatGPT. I want you to build along with me. Now, As always, if you've been to any of my sessions, you know that I am a white knight for compliance and data security. So as we build along today, please make sure the information that you are sharing into ChatGPT, you are comfortable sharing into an AI tool. As always, avoid uploading confidential, client-sensitive, or personal data. Those who are following me and those who are watching this kind of on replay, you remain responsible for the information that you choose to enter and how you get the agents to support it. So we're going to actually kind of in a few seconds, go through those settings just to make sure that you are the most supported in that kind of understanding of how your data is going to be used. So before we go any further, I'm going to explain how the general ChatGPT works. So the model 5.2 or whichever model you decide to work with, what this actually does whenever we give it a prompt. So I want to help you to understand how the system responds to what we ask it. That's what I'm trying to explain to you here. So every response that we get back is shaped by three things: our input, its instructions, and its context. Yeah. So in standard ChatGPT, most of that context resets consistently every new chat. Yeah. And that's why you often find that answers can feel inconsistent or slightly misaligned, or you may not get as good a response as you did 2 days ago when you kind of asked ChatGPT a question. And this is because the way that it creates an answer is that it doesn't look up answers. It doesn't go away and kind of like check out this book or this blog. It doesn't pull all of its information from anything live either. It actually generates responses by predicting the next most likely token piece of text based on patterns learned during training. So the model was trained on a large mixture of licensed data. Now, this data was created by human trainers and publicly available text. So from this, it learned how language is structured: grammar, tone, formats, common reasoning patterns, not specific documents or facts. Yeah, it doesn't learn the words that we give it. It learns the patterns in the words to be able to match an output to the input that we give it. So when we enter a prompt, that text is broken down into tokens. That's the language that this system understands, the thing that we give it, the input. And it then uses that as its instructions, the context, if you've had a little back and forth, or any uploaded references to calculate which token is most likely to come next, one step at a time, until it has formed a complete response. Now, what I want you to really recognize here is that it does not know information. It cannot verify facts on its own. Yeah, it generates a plausible text-based answer on probabilities, which is why we should always do a human review and give clear instructions. Now, that is general ChatGPT. Now, when we create a custom GPT, our support within this system, that changes because the instructions are persistent. Why we created it never changes. The behavior we expect from it is predefined, and our reference materials are always readily available. Yeah. So instead of prompting better every time or trying to learn how to do better at kind of talking to ChatGPT, we brief the system when we build it, and then we can reuse this forever, over and over. So before we start to build and really get into the meat of this session, we're going to look at the ChatGPT settings that actually matter. Yeah. So I want you to follow along with me and check these settings. So the first thing I want you to do is think about the settings that quietly influence every response that you get from ChatGPT. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to open settings here. We're also then going to go into our settings. So you just press your name at the bottom, into settings, and open here. So what I want you to then check out is your general. So this is just kind of what voice you want it to talk to you in, how you want it to kind of showcase information. We then want to come down to this section here, personalization. Now, personalization allows us to give ChatGPT a boundary or a foundational knowledge about how it needs to respond to us. So we can give it characteristics. Do we want it to be warm? Do we want it to be enthusiastic? How do we want it to present the information to us? Do we want it to use emojis? I bet you didn't know that you could go in and take away or use less emojis directly in here. Yeah. We also want to give it custom instructions. So this is where we can tell ChatGPT what we do, who we work with, how we like information to be delivered. If you're neurodivergent, you can let it know so then it can deliver information in a way that is most suited to your kind of learning and information style. We can also include our role, our industry, whether we want concise or detailed answers here, whether we want suggestions or we just want it to execute and complete the task we have asked it to do. You can also give it spelling or formatting preferences. So when you're thinking about this section here, say this clearly to yourself. Think about this when you're adding in custom instructions here because they impact absolutely everything within your ChatGPT login. Your custom GPTs, your agents, your schedules, your general chats. If ChatGPT currently feels almost right, it's because this section is either empty or is too vague. Yeah. These instructions don't replace what we're going to be creating today. So they don't replace a custom GPT, but they support it to give us the answers that we are looking for in the best kind of way. When we talk about data awareness, I want you to then go down into your data controls here. I want you to be practical when you're looking through this kind of setting section. Don't paste confidential or client-sensitive data. Treat public tools, public AI tools especially, like external assistants. When we talk about custom GPTs, they improve consistency and quality in our outputs, but they do not improve data security. We have to do that. The responsibility lies with us. Yeah. So when you are kind of thinking about how you want to set this up, if you want to make sure that your data is not used to train the model, make sure you click off here. Do you want it to access your browser data? You can say yes or no here. You can also manage all of your shared links here. So there are ways that you can go in and kind of remove data that you have shared and also mitigate the access that it has. Yeah. So that's the kind of easiest things that the settings that are the most important before we kind of start going through. When you look at your chat history and your data usage, I want you to be aware of whether your chat history is enabled and that you need to be mindful that ChatGPT should not be treated as your private storage. Yeah, that's not the purpose of this system here. When we upload to our custom GPT or ChatGPT in general, you need to make sure that you're sanitizing client names or sensitive details and use anonymization where possible. You also need to be aware that, you know, this button on the top right here, you'll be able to see, I'll make my arrow do really big swirl there. That means that it's a temporary or a long-term chat. So when you click that one, it has an even smaller limited context window. So you just need to make sure that you're using the right settings to store or not store data when you feel that that is the most appropriate. The decision and to add data into any AI tool remains with us, and the responsibility for what we put into these systems also remains with us. Yeah. Okay, so that's all the kind of boring setting stuff done. So what I want you to do now, if you're building along with me, is I want you to go down to this button, Explore GPTs. Now, what you can find here is there are things that are created by other people that you can add on and make ChatGPT more specific and better in these areas. You can connect it to Canva. You can get great kind of resources and citations by using Scholar-GPT. The idea of a ChatGPT is to refine and enhance the capability that ChatGPT has. It's always better to not necessarily be a jack of all trades. And that's what ChatGPT back and forth it generally is. When you use a custom GPT or create your own custom GPT, what we're doing here is actually getting more use, more structure, and more refinement in the outputs that we create. Yeah. So we then want to go into this button, Create. So you can, yes, Annabelle, it is on the lowest account paid for. The reason it is paid for is the way that it has to do tokenization. So it is for a paid for account, but you can get a 7-day trial or a 10-day trial. I can't remember which one it is at the moment, to try this out and see if it'll be worthwhile for you to kind of keep. So when you are showcased the kind of create section, you are offered two choices. You can either create by prompting back and forth to ChatGPT to create the system. I don't recommend doing that first. I recommend going through the full configuration process, which we're going to go through together, because then you will understand how you would need to prompt that and also know where you would then need to go back through to edit and kind of change its kind of settings. So you'll know where everything is. So the first thing that we want to do is define the purpose of our assistant. Before you even start typing in, pause, take a breath, because this determines whether our assistant is useful or becomes frustrating. Yeah. So I want you to ask these 3 questions to yourself. What type of work should this assistant support? Yeah. So what are you creating this for? Is it writing and editing? Is it summarizing and structuring? Is it analysis and synthesis? You can copy the questions out of the chat if you want to. Is it onboarding or training material? Not everything. Yeah. We want it to do one thing really well. Yeah. I want you to think about what it should never do. Yeah. So we don't want it to ever make a final decision. I don't want it to guess missing information, because ChatGPT is great at hallucinating. Because if it can't predict that next token, it fills it in, because its main purpose to exist is to answer your question. So even if it starts to pull the information out of unicorns and rainbows, it will start to do that for you, because its purpose to exist is to give you back information. Yeah, is to respond to you, even if it can't do that legitimately, what we would class as legitimately. So we're asking it what we're going to tell it what it can't ever do because we're creating trust. Yeah. So we want to be able to trust what this system is doing. And by giving it guardrails and constraints, that's one of the best things that you can do. I also want you to ask this question. How should responses feel? Because you want to get an output that is actually useful to you. Yeah. Do you want a clear output? Do you want it structured in a certain way? Do you want it to be reflective? Yeah. What is the purpose of this assistant? What should it never do? And how should it give you back the answers is the core thing that we should compare all of our next templated information to as we build out the brain and the knowledge system that we're going to give our new assistant. We're not defining its intelligence here. I want you to kind of understand that. We're defining the behavior that we need it to do. Yeah. So that is kind of what that whole kind of thing, these three questions really help us to do. What is the behavior that we want it to do? So now we're going to start to configure this system. So we're going to name our GPT. Yeah. And there are two sections that we are going to work through together. We're going to give it instructions, so how the assistant thinks and behaves. And we're going to give it knowledge, if necessary, of what it can reference consistently. Yeah. So these are the two areas that we're going to work through today. So we're going to give it a name. So you may think that the name's not that kind of important. It actually really is, because it starts to give the system the keywords that we want it to kind of do. Its kind of identity starts to come here. So what I'm going to create with you today is a blog repurposer. So it takes a blog and it creates social content from that blog. So I'm going to call it a blog social repurposer. Yeah. And of course, you can ask ChatGPT what are the best keywords for that system. Yeah. So you can also work with ChatGPT to help you fill this in the best kind of way. So the first thing that we want to be doing is giving it a GPT name. Yeah. So what you'll see also is whenever I make a change, it will start to save in that top corner. So just know that you kind of, if anything happens and you kind of end up off this, or you want to go back and forth to ChatGPT, you can always go to it and it'll just stay as a draft system here. So now we want to give it a description. Yeah, so this isn't the instructions. This is a description of what this custom GPT is able to do. So I'm going to get it to turn any blog post into a full pack of social content. I want it to create things for LinkedIn, Instagram, and X in a clear, human, non-fluffy voice. As you all know me, I don't talk in fluff, and I need these outputs to reflect that, right? But we're not writing War and Peace here. We're giving it a description of the custom GPT. So what are some of the things that you're going to create straight away from this, creating these kind of things? What are the tasks that you are looking to get this to do for you? Just drop them in the chat and then I can give you some kind of descriptions that would help the custom GPT to be the most useful. I only use Plus, Zoe, the lowest one that gives you absolutely everything that you need. And also it gives you the security that anything that you upload to ChatGPT, you can choose not to feed the model. So it gives you an extra level of security. Yeah. So we've given it a description. Now what you'll start to see on the right-hand side is a very familiar window. Yeah, very familiar. So whenever we open up a chat with our new assistant, it will give its name and it will give its description in the bottom here. So you will always know which one is for what. Yeah, because you'll probably make a few of these now. Now we're starting to kind of go through these processes together. Now, the instructions, I want you to think about, polls or questionnaires for research. Do you want it to analyze the outcome of those, Roxander, or do you want it to create those for you? Just let me know as I carry on talking. So, when we are giving it instructions, I want you to think about some different aspects of an instruction. Your custom GPT only understands the world by the way we give it instructions and information. Yeah? If we lack any of these areas in our instructions, we then will lose the kind of nicheness or the capability of this system. So the first thing I want you to think about is its role. So one of the things that you can kind of do is say things like, you are an assistant that supports me with. And why is that good? That is good because not only are you reconditioning it to understand what it's got to do, it understands that it is in a supporting role. Yeah. We then want to think about the behavior. So when it is giving this kind of response to the prompt or the action that we give that triggers it to do its job, do I want it to ask me clarifying questions when context is missing? Yeah, I probably do. Do I want it to give me a certain type of output? Yeah. But it's not going to know that unless I tell it that. It's not Mystic Meg. It can't infer or guess the kind of things I want it to do. Do I want it to match my tone? Probably. Do I want it to be concise? Yeah, if that's the way that you learn. So we need to think about the behavior that we give these systems. Yeah. We also need to not only think about what it can or should do, we have to go the other way. We have to give it boundaries and constraints. I don't want it to ever invent facts for me. Yeah. Tell me if it doesn't know, and then I need to ask better. Yeah. I want it to flag uncertainty clearly. Of course. I also want it to escalate decisions back to me. Yeah. Allow yourself to be the main port of call, the deciding factor. Tell it. Tell it that is what you want. Yeah. If you don't, it won't. That's the one thing I need to tell you. If you don't tell it, you don't give it access to something, it won't know and it won't do it. Yeah. So we need to give it the boundaries that we expect from these systems. We then need to give it decision rules. So when do I want it to suggest things to me? When do I want it to execute things? When do I want it to stop and ask me for clarity? If you don't set boundaries, AI will happily cross them because it has no idea that they're there. Yeah, it really has no idea that it's actually something that it should or shouldn't do. So we're then thinking about the decisions. So we've thought about its role, we've told it, we've given it a name badge, a title, a role. We've told it the behavior that we expect. Yeah, we've given it boundaries to work within. And we've also allowed it to understand when it can make decisions or it needs to escalate or revert back to me. Yeah. So let's create that for the system that I'm wanting to create. So I'm looking to create a blog social repurposer. I want to take blog And then I want it to create my social content because my blogs are great and I haven't got time to do the rest. Yeah. So the instructions that I'm going to give it is you are a social repurposer. Yeah. Its job is to take a user's blog post and produce platform-ready social content that is consistent, punchy, because I like to be a little on edge, even though I'm probably in bed like at 9 p.m., like most grannies. So I am telling it here. Yeah. So you are a. Oh, I didn't put that at the A. Let's put the A. You are a. Your job. You do this in this way, in this tone. Yeah. So do you think that that's more information than you would naturally give to ChatGPT when you're thinking about it? Yeah, it probably is a little bit more than you would normally give. So then I'm giving it the core outcomes. Yeah. So this is what I expect. So let's see what in my Blue Peter pre-made earlier kind of thing. So I want to convert one blog post into a complete multi-platform social content pack, because I said here that its description is I want a full pack of social content, but I also told it what I wanted as well. I want it to preserve the meaning and facts of the blog post, and I want to make the content easy to post immediately. And obviously in marketing, we know that that term is called copy ready. Yeah. Now I'm going to give it the voice and style, what I class as its default. Yeah. So let's pop that here now. Okay. Voice and style default. This is what I want it to default to every single time. Yeah. So I want it to be human, clear, confident, not cheesy. I want it to be slightly anti-fluff, prefers substance over hype. I want it to have UK spelling, short paragraphs, strong first lines, no corporate filler, and avoid emojis. I don't like emojis created by ChatGPT. I don't need a rocket on any of my content. Yeah. And avoid emojis unless the user asks. So as you can see, we're starting to build out these instructions really wonderfully. Now, I have some critical rules. Yeah. So my critical rules that I want it to live by, some people call this the constitutional AI layer. So this is giving AI boundaries so it can't go off and do kind of things that it wants to do itself. I do not want it to invent facts, statistics, results, or client outcomes. The information I give it, that is what I want you to be. That is what I want you to use as foundational knowledge. If the blog includes numbers or claims, you may reuse them accurately. If something is missing, the offer, a call to action, audience, I'm allowing it to make a sensible assumption and continue, but I want to know. So I'm asking it to then add a short assumptions I made section at the end, so I can just double check it. So you see what I did there? I gave it the kind of potential to create an assumption or to fill in a gap for me. Yeah. And this, but I want to have a way to double check myself. Yeah. I want it to tell me when it has made this decision. Yeah. I'm just going to answer this question quickly from Satvinder. This is fantastic. Thanks so much. I understand from a software developer friends that they follow a similar process when using AI to generate code, but they also include an additional step test to provide a feedback loop to the AI so that it can iterate on its output before presenting it. Yes, so we'll add that into the workflow throughout this process. Yes, we will definitely add that in. We always add in a iteration or a feedback loop into any AI workflow because the book ends with us. Yeah, we always have to double check. So now I'm going to tell it when I need it to ask me questions. Yeah. So because it may want to know more than I've given it. So I'm going to ask it to come back to me with questions only if it truly cannot proceed. Yeah, this is supposed to save me time. So I've decided that I am happy for it to continue unless it truly cannot proceed. I'm also giving it here some kind of context that it can always assume. Yeah. My primary platform is LinkedIn. I often repurpose for other platforms, but my work generally comes in from LinkedIn. My audience is kind of these individuals, professionals, decision makers relevant to the blog topic. And the call to action will be things like read the full post or message me if you want help with this. If the user specifies platform, so if I ever say Instagram, whatever, or I give a new CTA, follow that instead. That overrules its assumption. Does that make sense? So I'm giving it here a always do this. If you can't do this, and then always, if I add in any new information into the kind of question I asked, follow that instead. That overrides the assumption. Yeah. So now I'm going to tell it how I'm going to work with it. Yeah. So I'm going to give a workflow to it to then understand how, whenever I paste a blog into this system, what I want it to do. Yeah. So this is the workflow that I am asking it to do. So this is what I said when you need to really understand what this actually does. Yeah. Because if you don't understand and you're not giving it the full boundaries, knowledge, information, those kind of things, then it's not going to be able to do this for you, is it? It's just not going to know. It's not going to have the ability to understand that realistically. Yeah. So I am going to get it to extract and structure. So I want it to identify the topic, audience, pain, problem, the key ideas, take 3 or 7 out of them, examples or proof if I've provided it, the recommendations I have to solve that problem, and a CTA. Yeah. And I want it to pull 3 angles: practical, contrarian, because I like to be contrary, and story-based. Yeah. My content is always consumable. I want to get people hooked in. So I'm teaching it that. Yeah. I then want it to create a content map. So 4 to 6 themes from the blog, 2 to 3 hook styles, myth busting, what people get wrong. Here's how you should do it. And then I want it to generate the content pack. But I want it to do that in a certain order, because then I can check it. Yeah, because this is the way that I would then use the content. So the first thing I want it to do is just give me a quick summary. Yeah. So I want it to first, when it's creating the content pack, give me a quick summary. Why do you think I would want that? Why would you think I'm asking it to give me a quick summary here? You got any ideas? I promise no answer is a bad answer here. Why would I want it to give me a summary of the blog here? Okay, I'll let you in. Yes, Annabelle, exactly. So if it hasn't understood in the summary all the other content, it's going to be rubbish, isn't it? It's not going to be actually useful. It's not going to link back to the blog post. Yes, put in these little checks that you can do. Yeah, it's the short description. You can then go and update your blog. Absolutely. But Annabelle hit the nail on the head. If it doesn't understand in a few short sentences what the blog is about and who it helps, the rest of the content is not quite there yet. We're going to have to do some extra work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it to give the key points of the blog. Ooh, Ruxanda, I did a great session on SEO versus GEO and generational search. That's on the YouTube. So I will get that at the end for you. So the next thing I want it to do is give me key points of the blog. Why am I asking it to give me key points here? Why am I getting it to give me the 5 major key points of that blog? Why do you think? I've asked it for a summary, but why am I checking the key points here? The reason is I'm looking for keyword understanding. Social media, especially LinkedIn with, oh yeah, Annabelle, yeah, absolutely. Check it will focus on the main topics. So LinkedIn is very keyword focused now. We've had hashtag removal for a lot of things. So I need to make sure that my keywords are correct. They are aligned with my about me section, what I want to do. So I'm just double checking. I'm just checking that it has actually understood it. Yeah. I'm now going to ask it to create me reusable hooks here. Yeah. Because maybe different days I want to post different things. Maybe I want to turn this into a bit of evergreen content, but then I always have 10 for this blog that I've converted. Yeah. So once it's done all that, what I want it to do is then create me my LinkedIn posts, because that is my main platform. So I want that to do it first. So the first one I wanted to do is create a story and lesson. The next one I wanted to do is create me a practical framework and steps. And the next I want you to create me a contrarian kind of take. They all need to have a strong first line, a skimmable structure, because to be fair, who's reading everybody's content on LinkedIn at the moment? And a clear CTA at the end. I then want it to create me a Instagram carousel. Yeah. Because that is the second thing in the pack that I would create from a blog, which I would normally sit and kind of do myself. And then how I want it to do that. So I want to have its carousel title, slide by slide outline, a caption, and then an optional CTA. You can also ask it to create images. I'm going to add that in here so you can see what that looks like. And then I want an X thread. So I want 7 tweets kind of maximum for a thread on X. Now, how long do you think it would take a person to do this? Realistically, I haven't even finished yet. So what I'm also going to ask it to do is create me a newsletter snippet. Yeah, because maybe I want to add this into my newsletter and point it back out to the blog on the website. Yeah. I want it to give me a posting plan, because why not? It can look at all the patterns for this kind of content and what time and kind of date does best. You don't have to adhere to it. It's just going to give you like opportunity. And then I'm going to ask it to do the assumptions. Yeah. What you'll see sometimes is because I'm giving it a lot of information, it'll say no config. And that is just it trying to understand. If that perseveres, you have written something in a way that doesn't work. Yeah, it can't understand. It's too vague. And then you just have to change the last thing that you put in. But just give it a second. It can sometimes throw its toys out of the pram for a few seconds. Yep, so I'm asking it to give the assumptions that it made. I'm also going to give it formatting rules. Yeah, so all those things that we spoke about. Yes, yeah. So I will give you this whole plan if you would like it. If you want this exact one, that's not a problem. And then you can follow it. And I'll also create a template as well for you to create your own, but following the guidelines. So what are my formatting rules? My formatting rules are make everything copy ready. We know in marketing that means that it's almost ready to literally straight through, right? I want it to use headings and spacing. And I also want it to provide one alternative version for each LinkedIn post hook line so I can pick. Yeah. Okay. So actually, this is quite a light version of this. You can go into much more detail, but obviously we've only got an hour together. So I wanted to kind of create this so we can actually have a go and I can show you what this looks like in a few seconds. Now, what you can also do is if you want to share this internally with your team or a friend or your client, you can add in conversation starters. Yeah. So I can literally, instead of having to ask my assistant, I literally just press this button. Yeah. You can have as many of these as you want, but 3 to 5 showcase best on all kind of things. So you could say, is this blog post worth creating into a social media pack? Create specifically Instagram content, those kind of things. Turn this blog straight away into a week of LinkedIn content. If you don't want it to run the whole instruction thing all the time. So this allows you to kind of almost parse the things that we have offered it to be able to do. What you can then do is upload files. So if you have a brand guideline, if you have examples that you like, if you have things you don't like, yeah, upload them into your knowledge base. Now, your custom GPT will never forget the information that sits within it. That is the way it sees the whole world. In a project or a conversation with ChatGPT standard, we have a tokenization limit. So it almost starts to get memory problems if we don't keep giving it the information. That doesn't happen in your custom GPT. Yeah. So this actually has a much longer life than that. What I then want you to think about is, do you need it to be able to connect to the internet? Do you want it to image generate? Are you creating an assistant that allows you to test or try out code that you have created? So then you would need to select these things here. Once I have now created this, yeah, we are ready to go. Actions are repeatable things that are outside of your instructions. So what you can do is you can get it to every Monday send you a prompt or a note or an email to pop your blog post in. Yeah, so that's something that I'll go into in a different kind of session, but that's what that means. We can add actions to this assistant to interact with us outside of ChatGPT. Yeah. So shall we pop an image in here? Oh, I don't need to upload a photo really. So what you'll also see now when we press create is that we get options. Do I want it to be only me? Do I want it to be anyone with the link? Do I want to add it to the GPT store? Yeah. So I'm just going to put only me because I've put information about how I want my brand to do it. But if you're creating something internally, like what onboarding information for new recruits or things like that, so they can find information out very quickly, it's absolutely wonderful for that. Okay. Just having a second to save everything that I've asked it to do. So what you can also do is press preview. Now, I'm going to pop in a blog. Yeah. Yeah. And what have I asked it to do? So I have asked it to make the full pack of social content. So turn into social content pack. So what it'll do now is, I absolutely love, by the way, that you can now change the color of ChatGPT. That's one of my favorite things. So what is it doing? It's going through the quick summary. So the quick summary of my blog is that marketing has fallen into an echo chamber, same ideas, same language, same campaigns. Exactly. That is exactly what I wrote this on. This piece is about how sameness quietly kills effectiveness and what to do instead. Perfect. My key points: most marketing today is optimized for peer approval, not customer impact. I do believe that. Familiar ideas feel right, but they don't resonate. Jargon, in-jokes, and recycled campaigns actually alienate actual buyers. Real insight comes from listening to skeptics, not other marketers. We create this echo chamber where we say, yeah, that's great, it's a wonderful campaign, but actually sometimes we miss the point. And I talk about how growth lives outside the echo chamber, not inside best practice. So then you can see it's created me 10 hooks. Yeah, exactly what I asked it to do. It's created my 3 LinkedIn posts first. Yeah. With a hook and the primary hook. Remember, I gave it that information later on. Yeah. I would go in and change these CTAs. They're not particularly wonderful. But that's because I didn't really give it much guidance on that. As you can see, it's done all of that. So then it's done the Instagram carousel, and it's made me pictures. I would need it to give it much more much more guidance than I have. What's it? I create content about content marketing for content marketers marketing to other content marketers. Well, that is actually hilarious. I might actually use that. And then it's given me the caption. It's given me my 7 kind of tweet thread for X. It's given me my newsletter snippet. It's given me my posting plan and the assumptions it has made. I wanted to make sure. So the assumptions were: primary was LinkedIn. It always is for me. Audience is marketers, founders, brand leaders, decision makers, and then the call to actions are the ones that I pulled. It actually executed this pretty perfectly on first run. But if you ever want to update it, all you need to do, let me just make sure that I don't delete it before I do this, is you go into your GPTs, and then you go into here. This is how you would access it. It lives in that section here. But you know that little pen that was just on the right-hand side? You just click edit. And then you go in and you update its knowledge base, you update the information, and you update the instructions that you have given it. Yeah. So very quickly, has anyone got any questions on how we built that today? And if you want to share it, it's currently only available to me, so I wouldn't be able to share it. But then you can share it with anyone with the link if you change it here, and then you can just share it. And then anyone who has access to ChatGPT can just use it straight away within that process there. Okay. So has anyone got any questions? The way that we would add in a feedback loop, Satvinder, into here is in the last section, you would then go, check with me, I am happy with the response. Yeah. And then what it would actually do is it would then at the end go, are you happy with this response? I would need to say yes, or I would say no and say why, and then it would update that kind of thing. Can you repeat how you duplicate? Which is that bit? Denise. Yeah, you can update any simple changes in the main response. So you know how I used it here? You could literally be like, actually, that call to action is pretty rubbish. I want to change it to this, and it would automatically do it here. But if it's something that you repeatedly have to tell it to do, just go in and add it to your instructions, realistically. No, Janine, you can then turn it to private again. So you know how here you click share, you would just then put back to only me, and then they wouldn't be able to access it at all.
Robin, I think there's just one question from Steve as well about having a copy of these instructions at the end.
Yes, I'll pass them on to the college. I'll give you the one I've done with you today, but I'll also give you a template version so you can answer your own questions in those sections, if that would help as well. At the end, you showed us how to duplicate. I didn't do anything about duplication, but the way you would find it is if you go into your Explore GPTs here, My GPTs, and then if you wanted to edit it, you would edit it here. And then you can also delete the GPT here. Yeah. So when you go into edit it, it's the same one that you created. You would just edit and change the instructions here. It auto updates, but for peace of mind, always press update before you kind of do that kind of section there. Okay. No limit on how many assistants you can have at all, Zoe. The only limit is when you start having like thousands and millions and your knowledge bases are like 1,000 PDFs long, because we as logins to ChatGPT, we have a limit on our tokenization compared to the amount that we pay for our subscription. But you'll get a warning about that. No problem. I've never hit the edges of that. So I think that's it, Dave. I think.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Robin. Yeah, that was really, really interesting. I was trying to keep up with it as well, but yeah, it was very good, very good. Is it okay? What I'll do is I'll pop in just a link if anyone is interested in other sort of marketing courses that we do offer at the college. There's just a link in the general chat there as well, as we do, yeah, some of the Chartered Institute marketing courses and other short courses that Robin helps out with as well. I think we've got some potentially coming up with the lunchtime masterclasses as well for generative AI. So yeah,
Yes.
but you can find information about all that there as well.
That actually, the first session of that is on my birthday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'm going to wear a birthday hat to that session. So that's going to be fun. Yes, custom GPT remembers all of the information it houses within its own custom GPT. If you share it to somebody else, you don't get their knowledge though. It stays within their login, but they can use your custom GPT following the same instructions that you have created and accessing the same knowledge base that you have added to that GPT. Yes, this will be on the YouTube account. Yes, Marshane adds them to there.
Perfect. Well, I think we'll wrap up now. Thank you so much again, Robin. Yeah, it was
It's
brilliant.
not a problem. It was wonderful. Thank you all. I'll see you in 2 weeks for the next one.